Welcome back to a brand new edition of So You Think You Can Build. A brand new series that is completely original. Nobody in the Destiny community has ever done anything quite like this ever before. This is So You Think You Can Build. Today we're going to be looking at hunters, more specifically, solar hunters. We're going to be making use of the exotic chess piece, Ophidia Spathe. It reads, gain a second knife per charge. Getting a final blow with a throwing knife grants consecutive knives a temporary stacking damage bonus. Gambler's Dodge refreshes the bonus timer. Now this perk works with every throwing knife that Solar Hunter has to offer, but today we're going to be specifically looking at the weighted throwing knife. Now before we get into all of that, let's take a look at our Solar subclass. Now for our super, I've chosen Blade Barrage. In my opinion, it's a bit better than Golden Gun since we aren't using Celestial Nighthawk, but the choice here isn't too impactful to the build. If you prefer Golden Gun, then go with what you're more comfortable with. Our class ability here isn't as optional as our super. We have to go with Gambler's Dodge. The main point of our build is to try and get out as many knives as possible, and with our exotic armor giving us 2 knives instead of 1, we can get back both knives just by dodging. Now onto our melee ability, we're going with Weighted Throwing Knife. The knife deals extra precision damage and causes scorched targets to ignite. Our ignitions are the key thing we want to focus on. There's plenty of ways to scorch targets. The easiest way is usually through weapon perks like Incandescent. So we get a target scorched, we throw a knife, we get an ignition. It is a bit tricky, however. Those knife hits have to be precision hits in order to make a target ignite. But if that precision hit deals a final blow to a target, Weighted Throwing Knife also fully refunds our class ability. For the grenade here, I've gone with Healing Grenade. It's such an incredible survivability tool for the Solar subclass, granting us restoration. And once we get into our fragments, you'll see ways of keeping that restoration up throughout encounters. Our first aspect of the build is On Your Mark. On precision final blows, we get increased weapon handling and reload speed that stacks up to 3 times. Upon activating our class ability, we're granted maximum stacks of On Your Mark. There is an argument to go with Gunpowder Gamble here too, but it does give us 1 less fragment slot, and if you're using a gun with perks like Heal Clip, On Your Mark can help you activate those perks a lot quicker due to the increased reload speed. The second aspect is Knock 'em Down. This aspect enhances our Solar supers, giving Deadshot Golden Gun more damage resistance, Marksman Golden Gun gets increased duration, and in this case, Blade Barrage launches more projectiles. It's the second part of this aspect that really makes it necessary for this build. It reads that while Radiant, final blows with our equipped throwing knife fully refund our melee energy. And there's so many ways to get access to Radiant. Perks like Radiant Orbs from our artifact gives us Radiant every time we pick up an Orb of Power. But even easier, our first fragment gives us Radiant just by using our melee ability. Ember of Torches is our first fragment, and like I just mentioned, it allows our powered melee attacks to give us Radiant. Ember of Empyrean allows our solar weapon or ability final blows to extend our restoration and radiant effects, so whenever we throw our healing grenade and get restoration, or when we throw our melee and get radiant, we get a kill with our solar weapon, and the timer of our restoration and radiant is extended, and it keeps stacking until the timer runs out. Ember of Ashes applies more Scorch stacks to targets. Since we want to be using weapon perks that spread Scorch like Incandescent, those stacks are increased and give us a much higher chance to cause an ignition. Ember of Char makes our ignition spread Scorch to affected targets, so once a target is hit by the ignition, it becomes scorched. We then can throw another knife and that'll cause another ignition. Lastly, to get the most out of our ignitions, we have Ember of Eruption, that allows our solar ignitions to have increased area of effect, resulting in more targets getting scorched thanks to Ember of Char. Starting with our armor mods, on the helmet we have Hands On. Since we will be throwing a lot of knives, this will help us get our super back a lot faster. Heavy Ammo Finder is there to help fuel our heavy weapons, and 1 copy of Harmonic Siphon to make more orbs of power from our solar weapons. On our arms, we have Focusing Strike to help get back our Gambler's Dodge when we hit a target with our throwing knife, a copy of Heavy Handed to get orbs of power from final blows with our throwing knife, and a Harmonic Loader for further increased reload speed on our solar weapons. I'd say this is the least important mod on here, so feel free to change it to something else. Our chest has 2 copies of resistance mods, just be sure to change those to whatever the threat is for the activity you're doing, and a copy of harmonic reserves to further increase the amount of ammo we have for our solar and heavy weapons. Our leg mods are 1 copy of recuperation for added survivability, solar weapon surge giving our solar weapons added damage while we have an armor charge, and solar scavenger to help our ammo economy with our solar heavy and special weapons. Finally, our class item mods are 1 copy of Bomber to help get our healing grenade back, Powerful Attraction to help collect orbs of power, and 1 copy of Reaper to generate more orbs. Now as for the weapons I'd recommend for this build, in the kinetic slot, just go with whatever you prefer. I'm a big fan of Midnight Coup, but since we can't have any solar weapons here, it's really up to you. The energy slot is what really matters. Personally, I'd recommend the new Aberrant Action sidearm with Heal Clip and Incandescent. But really, any solar weapon with Incandescent is great for spreading Scorch and causing ignitions. For the heavy slot, I've gone with Dragon's Breath. It's such a powerful damage over time weapon that also applies Scorch to targets and can cause ignitions on its own. The artifact mods in the first column are really activity specific, so I won't get into those, but starting out in the second column, we have Logic Reductor. Aberrant Action has the origin perk Radiolaria Transposer, and this perk makes it deal more damage to Vex and extends the duration of the Radiolaria pools created by the origin trait. Overcharged Armory makes our weapons with the Radiolaria Transposer origin trait overcharged. Elemental Siphon gives us an elemental pickup after rapid weapon final blows matching our super. Counter Energy gives us energy for the least charged ability when you or a member of your fire team stuns a champion. Now Radiant Orbs is a very important perk here. It allows us to be radiant after picking up an Orb of Power. Looking at our aspect Knock 'em Down, when we're radiant, final blows with our knife fully refund our melee energy. Another huge artifact mod is Solar Fulmination, making our ignitions do increased damage in an increased radius. This build takes advantage of this mod all the time, with ignitions coming from our throwing knives and solar weapons. Lastly, we're using Shield Crush. While we can't take full advantage of this mod, we can use the second part that says, while radiant, our grenades recharge faster. You'll be radiant a large majority of the time with this build, and that healing grenade is so important for keeping restoration up, so this is actually a really important mod. Now one thing to take into consideration is using Whisper of the Worm instead of Dragon's Breath in the heavy slot. Act 2 of Echoes gave us a lot of sniper support in the artifact mod, so they're definitely worth thinking of. First off, we can use snipers for anti-barrier champions, and additionally, snipers are always overcharged when that modifier is active. Next, the mod Incendiary Rifle Rounds makes precision hits from solar snipers deal Scorch to targets. Since we're using Ember of Ashes, those Scorch stacks are increased and can easily cause an ignition with a few precision hits. Sniper's Meditation grants stacking sniper damage, stability, and reload speed for a short duration on hits. With Whisper of the Worm in the heavy slot, each hit counts as more than 1. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below of anything you'd change or maybe something I left out of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more builds in the future, and thank you for your support of my channel so far. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.